So we are entering into Knockout Sunday, which will be deciding who goes to the Summer Showdown tournament next week. And I actually do have quite a bit to say here. First, we're going to be starting tomorrow, with Atlanta and London. Atlanta going to get a 3-1. London's been able to take maps off of a couple teams, and Atlanta is known for being good at taking out low-tier teams and struggling against high-tier teams, which is why I think that, given London's current state right now, they could take a map off of Atlanta. Not win, not go map 5, just a map, or it'll be a 3-0. Boston versus Houston. Houston is looking really strong again now that they're able to run Reinhardt. We're going to be seeing probably Stand 1 just playing a lot of Monkey. They're probably going to be playing the Winston compositions rather than Ryan compositions because they know they're not going to be able to take it to Houston with that team composition. So they're going to try to run a more dive-centric meta against them, which might get them a map off of Houston. Friday, you have the Justice getting 3-0 against the Spitfire. Justice just looking really strong right now, but that could change depending on how we see the Justice, because they have been a team that's been pretty inconsistent, just in general, especially in like the Melee, where we saw them just kind of flounder there and just not really do much. Despite all the hype behind them, and they have that hype again, so they could definitely just fall through. I would like to see them get the victory against London. I'd love to see them get an absolute sweep through London. It could happen, it might not. Gladiators and the Defiant 3-1. I think my reasoning for this kind of comes through the fact that Defiant has a lot of strong players, like Aspire, Hisu, Sato, Asunje. Just the team has a lot of good pieces. They're just not able to follow through with those, consistently able to get picks, which is why I don't really see Toronto getting very far. But they're definitely very far against the Gladiators. Dallas and Houston, the battle for Texas again, still going to go in the favor of the Dallas Fuel. But it's going to be a nail-biter, I feel. These two teams are really dominant right now, and this could really shake up what the final matches look like. Because regardless, Dallas and Houston are going to be the number 1 and number 2 seeds based off of their win-loss record and their map differential. They both have an absolutely massive lead on everybody in that department. And adding on the fact that these two teams are, at least what I'm thinking, both going to go undefeated except for here. One of them is going to have to take loss, and I'm going to give it to Houston, which would put them in the number 2 seed. But if Houston wins, I would put Dallas in the number 2 seed, giving it a very different match set for them. And then entering into Saturday, Atlanta and Boston, back to what I kind of said about London, is Atlanta kind of fails to, they kind of struggle against these lower tier teams, and Boston is kind of a bottom tier team. They show promise, and then they fall, and they take massive hits when they don't need to, and they just fall apart at the worst times, which could lead to Atlanta taking Boston taking less maps against Atlanta, but we could possibly see it going to a map 5. Defiant and Fuel, again, back to what I said about Defiant, they have good pieces, but they kind of are falling apart when they need to win most, and that's going to lead to their loss against Dallas. And even if Defiant was at the top of their game, they still wouldn't beat Dallas. I feel like it would just go map 5, but when it comes to when they need to win, as right now, they fall apart. That's why they haven't been in any knockouts because of that. Justice and Gladiators, it's going to be a close one, and it could also be one of those that shakes up the seeds, as these two are very close in their map differential and win-loss record. This could sway who is going to be which set of matches they're going to be in. But I do think Gladiators are going to get ahead of the Justice. But in doing so would lead us to a seed set of Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, Paris, Los Angeles, and Washington, which is going to be an interesting set because we're going to see Atlanta versus Washington, which could go either way. And then you're going to also see Paris versus LA, which last time we saw, Paris beat the Gladiators. So I do see that happening again, but that would then lead Paris into Dallas, who's easily going to beat them. I don't see Dallas losing that against Paris. But having either Atlanta versus Houston or even Justice versus Houston, that could be a very close matchup that we see. And it could lead into either Houston, Atlanta, or Washington going. It could be any team, I feel, right there. But I feel like the two likely ones going would be Atlanta or Houston. But personally, myself, I am a fan of Houston, so I'm going to support them. And thinking that it's going to be Texas going to Hawaii for the Summer Showdown. And now into East Region. Friday, we have Spark and Nixel. Spark's going to go 3-1 against the Excelsior. Just kind of generic pick there. Nixel's pretty unimpressive in the Summer Showdown so far. Going 1-1. I kind of see that being... Actually, no, they went 2-0. I don't think about it, but Nixel's just been still an unimpressive team that's kind of... They've shown promise, but they haven't been able to fulfill those promises. Which is why I feel like they're going to be a decent team. They're going to be a strong team, but they're not going to be able to pick up the victories when they need it, just like Toronto. Which is why I feel like they're going to be losing both matches going into the knockouts. Chengdu and Philly. Chengdu is going to go 3-1 against Fusion. Both teams are pretty decent, pretty inconsistent too. Last week we saw Philly have a dominant performance one night, and then the next night they looked really, really weak. And I really hope that doesn't plague them throughout this tournament, because Fusion has a chance. Well, they would have a chance at going to Hawaii. They wouldn't be in Hawaii, but they would have a shot at going to the Summer Showdown. And then Dragons versus Valiant. Not really much to say. Valiant is Valiant right now. They're going to get 3-0 by Shanghai easily. And that's all I have to say really there. Nixel and Fusion. This could be a close one. This could be a 3-0 on either side. Because both teams are just... They either have a really good day or a really bad day. And that's just kind of what we're going to have to decide on, is which team is going to be doing well that week or that day. And I am going to give it to Fusion 3-1. Both teams are pretty strong, but I feel like what Fusion's issue is right now is they have one of the best Echo players in the Overwatch League in Shockwave, who I believe is in Korea now, and they refuse to play him. They refuse to play him over EQO, who sure is a good Echo, but he's not as good as Shockwave, who is easily one of the best hit scans in the league too. They could play him and Carpe and run double hit scan compositions or even double sniper with Hanzo Widow, Hanzo Ash, Hanzo McCree. And what we could possibly see from both teams is a close match that could go either way. Valiant Hunters, same premise. It's the Valiant. They're not going to take a map. Spark Dragons, what they're good at is either going 3-0 against Dragons or going map 5 against the Dragons. And I'm seeing it going to a map 5 against the Dragons. Both teams are really strong. You have Dragons with Lip and Fleto, one of the best DPS duos in the Overwatch League still. Fate and Void, who are getting a lot better together as a tank duo. And then you have the absolute dominance of Li Jiegong and Izayaki. Again, one of the best support duos in the Overwatch League. Going head-to-head against the Spark, who have really good players as well. That these matches could either go either way of it being a map 5 or a sweep. But I'd be going to a map 5, which would lead a seed count to be Shanghai, then Seoul, Philadelphia, and Chengdu, which it's going to be some familiar matches. We're going to see Shanghai versus Chengdu, and then Seoul versus Philadelphia. This could be a close one. We could be seeing, we're definitely going to be seeing Shanghai go to the Summer Showdown, but where it's going to be the closest will be Seoul versus Philly, as both teams are inconsistent. That's the theme of APAC, is inconsistency. Both teams are known for being poor when they need to win the most. So I do see that being a close one, but I do think that regardless, Seoul is going to beat Philadelphia. Because Seoul, this tournament just in general, has been really strong and really good. And I don't really see them losing to Philadelphia. So I do think it's going to be Shanghai and Seoul going to the tournament, which would lead us to either Atlanta, Shanghai, Seoul, and Dallas, or Houston, Shanghai, Seoul, and Dallas for the Summer Showdown. Hopefully I'm right. I've been wrong most times, but this could be a change, and we could possibly be seeing a returning champion in either Dallas from May Melee or Shanghai from the June Joust.